This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
Okay, I'm calling to order the meeting of the Cost Efficiencies Committee, the Ad Hoc Cost Efficiencies Committee for March 30th at around 3 o'clock. And we have almost everybody here. We're missing one or two people, but I think we should get started and hopefully they'll join us. I don't see anybody here for open time for the public, so I'd like to just move on to the very first thing, which is to look at the minutes of, excuse me, minutes of our last meeting, and these are the draft minutes, which I sent out very late this afternoon. I'm sorry, I forgot to send them around earlier. So let me see if we can scroll down and just take a glance at them and hopefully can get them approved. I must say, I really appreciate Judy's help in listening to the recording here and trying to make sense out of our sometimes wandering discussions. But I think she's basically gotten a good share of things down as we were talking about them. And we'll pick up some of this old business again today as well. So I'll just keep on scrolling a little bit. Here she comes. Okay, so we were still talking about maintenance contracts and approved vendor list. We still need to do some work on the common IT support, and that was, I think, maybe early on we had given that to John, but he's not been able to be here for a time or two. So somewhere between Ed and John, we still need to catch up on that one. Vehicle leasing and purchase, I think we had talked about with Ian and Bob before that was kind of not going to bear us any fruit just because of the financing costs related to that. And I know Janet's got a little bit more information on the shared permitting software possibilities that came in from Ron Lauren. We'll talk about that a little bit today.
It's not really permitting. They have the permitting software. It's the connectors to the other departments, I think. So just to
all right.
That.
Okay, well, we'll get toward that and get a little clarity. Yep. And then I know Bradley, we're working with the assessors in terms of what they were doing with their collection of personal property tax, etc. So that's kind of the stuff that we had talked about last time. And if anybody has any questions or any comments, otherwise I would take a motion to approve the minutes.
So moved. Second.
All right, all those in favor, just say aye.
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 Gibson, aye.
Aye. Fowles, aye. Yeah. I guess we should do roll call. That's fine. All right, we'll call them approved. Hi, Eliza. Thanks for joining in. Good. All right, so we should have our guest coming in. I'm hoping he will appear, but we'll get going on some of our other topics. And I had revised a little bit the document that I thought we could use to sort of fill in the blanks as to the things that we were considering. And I don't know, I'd gotten one from Eliza, so let me just pull that up if I can find it right here handy. I think it was this internal cost savings one, if I'm not sure. It was this one. So let me scroll down here. I changed the earlier sort of score sheet type thing that I had tried to develop. I thought this might be a little bit more friendly to use. And so, Eliza, thank you for trying it out. Others, and she just sent this to me ahead of time. And I'm hoping others might have started this too. And if not, we can come back to the idea here. But so let's just pick on this one since I have this in writing. The shared equipment's maintenance contracts. And again, the idea here from my point of view is that once we come up with 3 or 4 or 5 things that we think can be cost savings or time and efficiency savings, whatever, I mean, I would like to have this, be presented back to the select board so that they know what we've been talking about. And obviously, 2 of us plus Ed are kind of involved there, but nonetheless, I think we need to make it more widely known. So these are just sort of some standard questions. So what's the problem? What kind of happens now? And so I won't read these, I'll just go down and we can correct anything that maybe not right or needs to be tweaked if there's something that's not correct. If we did kind of a shared maintenance contract, what would change? What would be the difference if we bothered to do that? And so I think, Aliza, this is a good description from what you had found out from your contact. You'd actually called the BG rep, is that right?
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so right now, we're correct in saying that we have some shared maintenance contracts. So the departments that might be affected here, police, library, town hall, and Norris. I think I had just had a question on that because I think in our notes, we said that the library probably uses a different one.
Oh, okay.
Correct.
I don't think that they do. So I'm just going to highlight that so I can remember it myself. I think they have a separate HVAC vendor. And I think, was there anybody else we were going to check? Randall, you said he was using just a local guy for when he needed it, something.
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
I checked with the highway department and the fire department. They have no contracts. They just do it as it happens.
As it happens. Okay.
Yeah.
And I checked with water,
Mhm.
and they basically use mini splits. So they don't have a contract of any kind.
Okay.
They don't have a HVAC system.
Okay. So no, I'm just going to type in the blanks here if I can. Try this. No HVAC system. Sorry. Okay. Library uses a different contractor. And fire and who? Fire and highway.
Fire and highways, it's whenever needed.
Okay. As needed. Yeah. As needed. So not necessarily BG though, not necessarily BG mechanical. No.
No.
Okay. Good to know. Okay. So I guess the option here would be to maybe take a look at, and Ed, am I correct that town hall has a maintenance contract with BG?
That's correct.
Okay. So the idea would be to see whether or not there might be some savings with police, town hall, and Norris lumped in together, because what is said here, right? We've got a hourly service cost drop by 6%, but I think you had said somewhere else, yeah, right here,
It would be 8, yeah.
8% if we went to another department or two added to that contract as a preventive maintenance thing. So it could be an 8% drop on call amounts. We don't, at this point, we'd have to, try and gather some costing in terms of what this, really would mean in terms of real dollars. I'm not sure that this is a frequent, occurrence, and I don't know the difference between, if we had a regular quarterly or biannual maintenance, however often they would want to do this to clean out our HVAC and boiler systems, if that is, a better idea than having to have an emergency and call somebody at the last minute when you're really in trouble. It seems like it would be, but I think we need a little bit more information there to figure that out.
So Chris,
yeah, yes.
on that, I think Norris traditionally was twice a year. During
Okay.
COVID, we might have hit 4 times a year, but I think that was a unique period of time.
Okay.
I'm imagining town hall
Mhm.
has some sort of maintenance. If they have the agreement already, they're coming out once or twice a year.
Mhm.
Quarterly.
All right.
Okay.
Quarterly. So the next step
Okay.
might be saying, you know what the Norris agreement is, you know what the town hall agreement is. You've been servicing the PD. Put all 3 of those together and kind of match the agreement with the office.
Mhm. Yep. Yep. As a quarterly effort.
Well, what their recommendation is, I think Norris, because we're closed for 3 months in the summer, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we only need 3 times a year.
Oops. Yeah. Okay. Good idea. God, I can't type today. Sorry. Okay. All right. And who would be responsible for implementing this? I guess it would fall basically to Ed, right, in terms of contracting
Yeah, it would,
as procurement.
correct.
All right. Any other resources that would be needed? Don't know that there would be. Maybe. Possible negative impacts? Anything that you can think of? Anything that might stop us from wanting to do this?
Well, I'm just curious how we arrive at, it needs to be done 3 times, 2 times, or 4 times.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, if we have quarterly right now at town hall, and as John said, the school maybe has been too biannual this so far with COVID, maybe, or maybe a little bit more with COVID, if that's what I understood. But
Yep.
given that the school is really shut down for 3 months of the year, so, you know, could we do something in between? I don't know. Maybe that would be what they could recommend to us in terms of what they're finding for issues, or how old our systems are perhaps at each of the facilities. That might be a factor that they would, the BG Mechanical might tell us. I don't know.
Yeah, it depends on how old these systems are, what they're using for filters, how often those filters should be changed.
Yeah. Okay, so,
And Town Hall is newer than Norris. Is it a newer facility?
newer facility, but the HVAC system, I don't know which would be the newer system. I know HVAC.
Probably-
Norris.
Probably here, which was done in 2011.
Oh, really? Okay. I was thinking was specific filters at Norris, no? Something new with the,
Well, so
Yeah.
Norris, we moved to the MERV 13. Well, Lisa, you go right ahead. I don't-
yeah,
Yeah, I was thinking the same. So, but our contract, our regular contract doesn't include the MERV 13s. We have a separate contract for the MERV 13s. So pre-COVID, we were just replacing with, I don't know, MERV 8s. I don't really know what the name of the filter was, but now we are doing the MERV 13s, and I think it's 4 times a year, 3-4 times a year, because our systems are running 24 hours a day because of the filtration of air. And we need to get so many air exchanges in 24 hours.
okay, so BG Mechanical is not doing that as part of their regular maintenance then?
Correct.
Okay. All right. Any other thoughts in terms of level of feasibility to implement? Is this seem like it's undoable? It seems like a relatively simple thing to ask about, at least. Probable?
I don't see a downside.
No,
Okay, all right. All right, I guess the next step would be who would be the one to contact out to BG Mechanical and see if we can get some information. Do you think that they would have costs easier than us digging them up from each department in terms of they could go into their records and say, okay, this is what it's cost us at Norris and at police and you know, town hall over the last year, maybe 2 years or something like that? Or do we have that handier ourselves? What's the easiest way to get that costing information?
I bet they have it. I bet it's easier for them.
they've got it. I've got it at hand for ours, but I'm sure they've got it all.
Okay,
But what would be interesting is seeing all of those contracts side by side.
Okay.
Agree.
all right, all right. Would it be worth a meeting with a couple of you, like, you know, like Ian and Ed and Eliza with the rep from BG Mechanical to talk about this, or?
It might, the first thing I'd probably do is, I'll find our contract and send it to Eliza and Ian, and if they can find theirs and send it along to us, at least we can take, you know, have a preliminary look at them and see how similar or how different they are.
Okay, now Ian doesn't have a contract though, right?
No, I don't have a contract. The most I can give you is how much I've spent on the heating system in the last couple of years.
Okay, yeah, that would be good if you could do that. Okay, great. Okay, well, that's a start. That makes me feel like we've got something rolling in here a little bit.
Yep, me too.
So good. Thank you, Lisa, for
Sure.
kicking the ball off on that one. That I think is helpful. So this is the kind of thing I think doesn't have to be terribly, we don't need to write a manuscript. I just think it's important to kind of document of, what's the problem we're trying to solve and why and how do we think this is really gonna do something here. So I'm gonna knock out the library right here and just do that. Okay, great. All right. So I don't know if anybody else had a chance to work on other things. I know central purchasing of most commonly used supplies. I know Bradley, you were working on a lot of that, and last time I think you had sent out your spreadsheets to the various departments, and you said you'd gotten 4 or 5 answers there of the common supplies, which seem to be paper, toner, and ink. And I think Ed or somebody else suggested 3-ring binders, perhaps. So if we have any more information, did you get any other details from people from other departments?
I really did not. I didn't reach out and try again. I didn't.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have the time to do so, but
Yeah.
I can try
Okay.
again.
Okay. I think if we could, this seemed to be, I think, something that we thought would be beneficial, not to do a bulk purchasing. As Ed mentioned, we really can't do so much in terms of bulk because of storage issues, but the notion again of what would be 3 or 4, of the top, maybe 5 top supplies that people are ordering all the time. File folders might be another one that would come to my brain. I don't know, hanging files or file folders.
Hanging files, file
Yeah.
folders.
Yeah, 3-ring binders, paper.
I think building maintenance supplies is big too, between paper towels, tissue paper,
Yeah.
Cleaning supplies.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So if we were to kind of take a look at all those and just talk about, kind of fill this out as much as we could, Bradley, with, what's happening now. I know you'd mentioned that there were several vendors involved, from WB Mason to Quill and Staples and all over the place. And again, a lot of these, I think, Ed, you mentioned that these are on the state contract that we would use anyway. Is that right?
I'd have to check the state contracts, but usually in the past, what I've tried to do is concentrate the purchases with those vendors that are on the state contract.
Yeah. Okay. All right. So it may or may not be a big cost savings, but it seems like it would be a time and efficiencies kind of savings where, people wouldn't have to stop and go look up the price and figure out if Staples is cheaper this time than WB Mason or whatever. We could just say that, okay, if you need paper, you're going to buy it from this vendor. And that's, a list of maybe 5 supplies, like we just said, that would at least start to be a little bit more consistent, consolidated as an idea. So the thought could be, and John brought this up earlier, was the idea if we did this, could it be a system, and John, you can explain how it happens with where you're working, but a system where it's on a regular order basis and somebody taking charge of being that central person to do the ordering.
Right. So you can place requests for items throughout the week, but we only place the order on Thursday. Delivery is made on Friday, and that's it. You shouldn't miss the boat. Small things like, I completely understand we can't park a skid of paper somewhere, but we should be able to park, a couple boxes of blue pens and black pens and a whole container of paper towels, things of that nature somewhere. There's got to be, some room. And then that person kind of maintains a certain inventory. We have an inventory level, what is it, 12 rolls of paper towel, whatever it is. So they
How
kind of
does
do
that
the
work?
automatic stuff.
John, because you're in the same department, I'm sure the same company's paying for it, but we all have our different budgets. How does that work where, let's just say, I need a carton of paper and I paid for a case of them, a case of paper, and it's at the town hall. Who's to say somebody else is not going to take that case of paper that I purchased?
Yeah, so we charge them all off to departments. So when it comes through, it gets coded, and then the accounting department handles it. An opposite way to do it is you take office supplies out of all budgets and you put it into one off, like I was thinking Judy. So the town administrator's department would have a line item, and that's where all the office supplies would come out of that. They wouldn't hit the individual departments. Because you're right, if you ordered, spend X amount of money because you wanted to have this paper on hand or X product on hand, and you went to get it and somebody else took it, you're getting penalized for it, right? Because it came out of your budget.
Yeah, that's, I'm just the actual accounting of it. That's all I'm thinking.
Yeah. So would that be a feasible idea? Ed, you're probably best to speak to that in terms of, suppose there was a, whatever, a once a week deadline or once every 2 week deadline for supplies to be, routed into to you through Judy, for example. And then once they were all in, I mean, you're obviously the procurement person, but she could be the central collection person and make sure the order happened and got there and people are notified that their stuff came in or something like that. Does that make some sense? I'm not sure how it's really done now. It seems kind of scattered.
Well, like Ian said, we all have our own accounts, so we just order it on our own and it comes to us. So, but yeah, we could do some type of modification to that.
And do you think
if we're all getting it,
Yeah.
just this question on this, if we're all getting it from, let's say the vendor is WB Mason, that's where we get our paper. The prices are going to be the same. And if we're managing our own budget, is there a benefit to having it coming from central, a central source, a central purchasing?
You're assuming the prices are going to be the same.
No, but I mean, if we're all required to purchase through WB Mason, because they don't give you a bulk price. You could spit it out to them and see if you can get a better price. And that would be the idea of consolidating everything. And basically you say, okay, we're going to buy 1,000 pens this year. What's that price? And is it cheaper than the state contract or what's in their book price? That's why you use central purchasing.
So once the preferred vendor was decided upon, Ian, is that what you're saying? That so suppose it was determined that WB Mason was the paper purchaser, everybody knows that, then everybody still could have their own budget and go to them for that purpose. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I suppose, for I give you an example for my department, right? Paper specifically. I buy a case which has about 12 reams in it, I think, maybe a little bit more, maybe 15 reams. I don't know specifically, but I buy it case per case because I only buy it when I need it. I don't stock up on it because I never know where I might need that money for something else. So I guess if the purchasing, again, if you get a bulk price, that might be different. I don't know. It sounds like it could be an accounting nightmare, as far as how do we track all that through central purchasing, and I guess I suppose it gets deducted from our budget then, if that's what Ed is implying, just
exactly
gets deducted from our budget.
Right.
Yeah. So when the order was placed, you'd know that there was, a case for police, whatever, 5 cases for town hall, whatever, and the bill would be apportioned accordingly, I would assume.
Right. And then on the flip side, if it isn't any cheaper to buy it in bulk, but just buy it off the state contract, then we continue to do what we're doing. But we just, again, we identify those preferred vendors, and that's who people buy from.
Yeah, I think that's very beneficial to actually identify the preferred vendors. I'm just wondering if, is this going to be too much of a task for your small office, Ed, I guess, is this something that Judy's going to be able to do amongst all her other, duties and tasks? That's all. She seems like she's got a lot going on.
Just depends on how expansive it becomes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, again, I think the 4 or 5, supply type things that we mentioned would be, where we would start and stop for now, and just to try it out and see if that works. So again, paper, toner, ink, maybe some cleaning supplies or paper supplies like Ian has mentioned, file folders, hanging folders, and 3-ring binders. I mean, that would be plenty to start with for right now and see what difference that would make. So Bradley, would you still continue working on this one for us? See if you can fill in some of the details here a little bit. And see if we can narrow this down a little bit and understand what's really going on with it. But I think, I don't know, it seems like this would be an easy one to do, and at least it might save us some time, if nothing else. Yes, go ahead. Yep, John.
So, I don't know that's the answer, but Ian or Ed, when you guys are ordering your individual supplies, are you all using a master login like Staples or WB Mason, or does each group have its own?
We have our own, Amazon, we're all on our own. Yep. We have our own login.
Yeah, so one of the steps, maybe piece of information that might be useful for Bradley, is for those individual department heads to go print out what's actually been ordered for the past 12 months under those individual access codes. You may, and then aggregate it. That will tell you what the most popular items are that are being ordered across the whole town.
Yeah,
I believe I have access to their, I'm like the head of the Amazon business, and I can see all the groups and run.
Okay.
reports.
Yep. So including WB Mason and Staples, there's no personal accounts that are being ordered. They're all under the town tax ID number.
Well, at least at Amazon, I can do that. WB Mason, those others, I probably need help with.
Yeah.
okay. Because I think Bradley sent out a spreadsheet asking the departments what their most commonly used things were, and I don't know if that had a costing amount on it. Bradley, did it, or was it just the listing of the top supplies?
It was just top supplies and top vendors that they ordered from.
Yeah, okay, so the vendors and the supplies themselves, but we didn't get into the costing of it, so. Okay, if there's a way to figure out how much we've actually spent on some of those things, that would be good to know. Yep. Okay. All right, I'm gonna keep on moving on. The third one on this list of ones was on photocopier maintenance and support, and computer printer photocopier maintenance and support. So this was kind of that shared IT support. I think we said that we've got various again, vendors, whenever there's a problem. We know that there are not all the same printers around. There's many different printers, ages and models, etc. So having a common maintenance contract on photocopiers might be a challenge, but we're talking about getting a couple of new photocopiers. And then we know that some of the computers, whenever they have been breaking down, it's been very much, a department would call whoever their favorite IT vendor is, then not necessarily in any kind of coordination with other departments. So I don't know, Ed, if you've got some further thoughts on this. I think that this would be beneficial to try and consolidate, especially with all the new laptops that have been purchased, right? To get everybody on a certain, maintenance arrangement, so that whenever somebody broke down, they didn't just pick up the phone and call anybody. They called whoever this vendor would be.
Correct. I mean, and at least for, I would say, town hall, highway, probably fire and water, that would make sense.
Okay, so let me just do that. So town hall, fire, water, and who else?
Highway.
Highway, yeah. Okay. What about library?
They use CW Mars, so I'm going to split them out and leave them separate.
Okay, all right. Okay. And what about the notion you were talking about getting some new photocopiers in? Is that?
Yeah, actually, Ian and I met with a vendor last week on that, consolidate what we're doing.
Okay. So would that be something that would be amenable to a shared contract of sorts there too as well?
Seems to be.
You'll
be happy to know, Chris, I'll be saving $20 a month.
And we're taking that right up and attending these meetings, right? Oh, boy. Okay, I can't win. I'm trying. Well, I think, again, if we can,
Every bit helps.
It
yeah,
does.
it does. We've been through some painful budget times, and I'd rather not have to do that level of craziness again. But we I don't know, maybe we can find something here. But like Ian had said last time, maybe in terms of enhancing our revenues, there's not a whole lot else to bring in revenues. Right now anyway, in the immediate term, we seem to have, squeezed ourselves pretty thinly in terms of new revenue possibilities at the moment, and therefore to try and look at other ways of doing things more efficiently and have some more cost savings on this kind of thing. So let's Ed, can you and maybe John together work on this one a little bit? I'm gonna give John an assignment here. He was originally on the IT support one at one point, consolidated IT support. Just to
So this
kind
is specific, this is just PCs.
I believe, yeah. I think Ed,
Okay.
is that what you were thinking? Yeah. Yeah. So see if we can.
Well, I'm just gonna say this, and are you crossing the line with a informational technology committee?
Well, not in terms of operationalization. I don't think we are. I mean, they've made recommendations on they helped get the laptops, working with you installed, but in terms of, recommending a vendor, I don't know, for on-call support. So somebody can't get into their computer. I don't think the tech committee would be called for that. I mean, as they're talking about eventual hosting and, webmail and, the Bluehost issue and Microsoft 365, I think that's a different issue, no? Or
I don't.
no?
No.
Then what would you like to see happen on this?
I think that's all tied together, one way or the other. Whether it's through the IT technology committee or through, this group looking at it, I just don't want to step on any toes.
Yeah, okay. I guess I don't know how much the IT committee would know about it, in terms of, some of the actual practices and the costs, given that they're not in and around town hall.
This might be an asset to them if it was completed.
Yeah. All right. Well, who would be the best people to try and do this? Would we want to have somebody from this committee and somebody from the tech committee try and work together on this?
That's a good idea.
All right. Well, we can bring that forward. I don't know exactly if they have another meeting scheduled or when they do, but we can bring that idea forward. I'm not sure who is the best person on their team to do something like that.
But I mean, things like the cost and everything, I mean, that should be done prior to
right.
getting them involved, I would think. I mean, that's not
So
their charge.
Right. So I think there ought to be a way to figure out, whatever we're spending on Northeast IT, for example, versus, some of the other IT vendors that we're using for basic support, right? I mean, we should be able to pull those from the accounting records.
So I think the first step is, unless somebody already has it, is you have to start with an inventory. What do we have? What do we have for PCs, laptops, printers? It sounds like there's a hodgepodge across the board. It sounds like the copiers are already being dealt with separately. So peel that issue out.
Well, 2 copiers, right? Not all the copiers.
Yeah, there's a lot of desktop printers, and then I don't know if some of those are they
I'm sorry, I meant the photocopiers, the bulk.
Oh, okay.
The
Right, but the
Dempsey things or
the
whatever.
library's not being addressed,
Well, actually it is, because the individual that Ian and I talked to was going to stop and check with them.
Okay.
so that should be added in then if the library's part of that. In number 3.
Well, Ed, you said something about them using the separate library system, though.
Right, but that wouldn't necessarily be for the copy machine.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to just put them in parentheses for right now.
Copy machine, so.
Yeah. Okay, so again, maybe Ed,
Why-
John, and we'll find somebody from the tech
What-
committee to work together.
Why don't Ed and I work on it and give us 3 weeks on this particular issue to come back with an update
Yeah.
and next steps.
Because I think we've got some level of inventory on the computer stuff, Ed, have we not, in terms of what you've had to provide before?
Yeah,
We may not know all the printers that everybody has, because there's a lot of desktop printers that people have, but.
right. And by policy, that may be something we want to look at also.
Right. Okay. All right. I'm gonna just pop up. I see Eric has joined us. So Eric Wise, thanks very much for joining in.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
All right, two things.
Mhm.
One, I'm just gonna be honest, we're working on getting a grant submission in, so I may be very distracted here. It was I was hoping to get it done this morning, but it's not done.
Okay.
So I don't know how long I can hang. I would love to jump in with this group at your next
Yep.
meeting more, with both feet better. But I
Yep.
also wanted to add to your last discussion. We have a regional IT program that it would be worth somebody from your town having a conversation with Molly about.
We've joined in on the
We
IT
joined.
support. Yep.
Okay, I didn't know, so I'm just
Yep.
throwing
We're
that
part
your
of
way.
that. We are
Okay.
part of that. Yeah.
So I'll listen for as long as I can here, and I apologize, but it's just a deadline and I gotta meet it, so.
Sure. No, actually, I might swap around if people don't mind. One of the reasons that, I had shared with you some of the documents that we were trying to work on and some of the early discussion we've had, Eric, on this. We've been meeting since January, basically. So this is maybe our 5th meeting or thereabouts. But we were, kind of challenged with coming up with other resource enhancements for the town. And at the same time, trying to look at, therefore, some other cost or time savings efficiencies. But one of the topics that was starting to come up was talking about either shared or regional services.
Right,
And things that we might have, and I might try and share this. So things that we have that, oops, wrong one, sorry. Services that we have in town that maybe we could offer to someone else, or there might be ones where we need to get services from somebody else. So this is in our first meeting, we had come up with a whole list of services that we have in town. And I guess we wanted to just get a first sense, since PVPC is kind of our coordinating body here, if you could share with us maybe some just ideas of what kinds of sharing is happening. Just what kind of departments are being used in terms of a municipal sharing process. If you could just give us some enlightenment on that, and if you have to leave, at least we'll have that in our thought process.
I appreciate your patience, and I will do my best on the next one, but this is a federal grant deadline, so I have no choice.
Mhm.
First of all, I wanted to say hi to everybody, and in particular, Ed, I talk to Ed regularly, so hi, Ed. And then John, I don't believe I've seen you yet, but I've met you over the, on the canal effort that we've been talking about, not the canal, the HR effort. And so I just got a visual on John now for the first time as well. So I appreciate that. So in terms of services that we are talking to other towns about or already in place, about shared health. We have 2 different versions of shared health going on. One is over in Hamden Munson area, and that's 4 towns. And the other one a lot about, which is Foothills Health District, which is near you. We are talking to some of the hill towns like Cummington, Goshen, Worthington, up that way, about shared fire services, and we're inching our way towards that. It is not happening quickly, but it is happening slowly. They're talking about sharing trainings and things like that, but not really a true shared service. We were very successful with the towns of Chester and Blandford for a shared policing arrangement. And that usually requires that one of the towns has a really significant need for sharing, and the other town can kind of be the provider of, and in that case, Chester took it all up, and Blandford gets its services through a joint arrangement, but it's through Chester. I know that Russell and Montgomery are looking at that. I know there were a number of awards recently. I don't know if any of the towns around Southampton would want to think about that, but that's another one. Towns from time to time have talked about shared pieces of DPW equipment, not so much shared DPW because, the towns are having a tough enough time just keeping up with the roads they got, basically. But shared DPW equipment, and like you could use it one period of time and another town could use it. That requires some structuring and some organization that would, have to work out in everybody's favor. Let's see, we had in place, but now it's kind of taken on a life of its own, a shared accounting services. And we were using Eric Kinshirf, and it just turned out it was much easier for the towns. We started the program and it was very successful, but it was just as easy for the towns to contract with him. They didn't need us as a middleman anymore, and him and his firm do a great job. So it was fine. It was like we kind of created it. It kind of took off on its own, and it was time to let that program go and do what it was doing. We are working directly with Southampton and a number of other towns on looking for a way to share HR services, and that's been moving along pretty steadily. We now have a consultant in the region that's looking at that. And then I guess the other area that we've begun to explore, and it's because of the way my position has been crafted here at the PVPC, is regional economic development issues for rural communities and how much different they are than the larger communities, the cities, in other words. I mean, we know that there are challenging areas in Springfield and Holyoke that need economic development. We're all aware of that. But when Southampton or Chester or a smaller town, or Cummington or whatever, loses a store, and suddenly there's, a whole bunch of services that are missing, that's a huge impact to a small town. And so we're working hard to recognize that, and we're trying to work in two different directions on that through a federal and a state grant. I don't have a lot going yet on that for you, but I know that's something we're looking at through my department. And then I would say that the other one that keeps popping up is treasurer type services and town clerk type services. In other words, functions of town government. And those really depend on the towns and their needs and what they want. And the same thing with a shared town administrator. Years ago, Ed probably remembers this, there was the Circuit Rider program in which there were a number of people who were working as town administrator for a bunch of towns at once. And that has certainly changed, because over the years, there's been more and more requirements on the towns to do what they have to do. And it's been harder and harder, but there are a few towns that can still share town administrators. It's fine. We're finding more and more that the town needs a full-time administrator to keep up with everything. Last but not least, we're going to try to pull together a forum here, a roundtable type forum, to get towns to discuss not just ARPA monies, but the effect of ARPA monies and that they're having on their town. How are towns allocating the ARPA monies? What are they doing with them? Can they prioritize them in terms of the types of needs you're discussing here? How can all those types of things occur? And it's a one-shot deal, so you can't, build something and hope it's going to last forever. But how is it best laid out? And then the other side of that is, how do you keep track of everything to make sure the feds are happy with what you've done with regards to that? And I know I said last, but there is one more piece. We, amongst all the other things we're doing, are trying to track what's happening with the federal infrastructure bill and how that's going to come back to the communities. Nobody has a read on it yet because it hasn't been allocated that way. It's just been passed. But there's a lot of discussion going on at that level. And then I will make a pitch to Chris and Ed here, and I don't know if anybody else wants to, but on April 9th at the Easthampton High School in the morning, we're having a regional Western Mass meeting of like selectmen and other people, town administrators, with members of the delegation. We're discussing a number of issues. It's sponsored by the MMA. We're one of the sponsors of it too. If you're interested, and we'll be talking about some good topics here. Hang on, I'll pull up the sheet. Here it is. Give me one moment. I can actually find paper on my desk today. That's a start. It's going to be dealing with police reform, ARPA funding, population shifts, and public infrastructure, i.e. Suzanne Bump's report back to the towns. And all of those are critical in terms of needs and funding and prioritization. Trying to think if there's anything else. We did, and that's kind of gone to the side a little bit. We did a really good solar workbook for everybody, in which we provided good advice for everybody on solar arrays in terms of their towns and how that was affecting different towns in different ways. Oh, I know one other thing. We are looking into, for a couple of towns now, a shared conservation commission agent position. That will definitely have some legs going forward that other towns will look at, because that's another one of those sort of not so much obscure, but smaller part-time positions. You don't need somebody a lot, but you need somebody who's qualified to be able to do it. So, and then the other pitch that I like to make when I have this discussion is, if you think of things that I'm missing or we're missing, shoot me an email. You're good about that, Chris. I don't have to worry about that. But I'm just saying that in general, if you come up with something that you think your town, as you were saying, could share with other towns, we're more than happy to help figure out ways to do that. So.
Great. No, I think back on the public health one for just a second. I think we had learned last night that we're kind of part of a grant, I guess, is being managed out of Northampton. It's a shared public health grant.
Yeah.
It's a was it public health and excellence or something like that, I believe.
Something like, yeah, they're PHE grants. Yep.
You're right. And so we're part of that now, and that'll be managed out of Northampton, and that's going to get a fair amount of educational work, at least, and maybe some vaccine clinics or other kind of you know, I don't know, tick education, Lyme disease education, those kinds of things, or maybe some other kind of preventive kind of thing. So that's something started. But I think one of the things that we've talked about from time to time, and I don't know how it works in other towns, given the size of Southampton, we have a public health director, and then we have a health agent as well.
Right.
And so that agent also acts as the animal inspector, and you know, so we have this kind of mixture. And I think over time we wondered whether that's appropriate for our size. Is that what other towns are doing? How do we have something we could offer, or should we think, you know, differently about how we structure certain things? So some of the things that we've started to, you know, just think about, I think, in you know, not really gotten very far on it, but just having that initial idea of what might be something that we could, you know, do to either, you know, reduce our costs or enhance our revenue by sharing with another town. And obviously Montgomery, you mentioned somewhere in that spiel, Montgomery would be a close neighbor, obviously, to us. Huntington might be a little farther away, but I mean, Montgomery, if there was anything to share, that might be a possibility.
Well, we would be happy to explore, like through next year's DLTA, that would be coming up next year. The possibility of looking at if there are more than one town. That's how we do the regional things. You have to get more than one town to sign on to say we're interested in doing this.
Right.
So when is this group meeting again?
Usually we meet every couple weeks, 2 to 3 weeks. So probably toward the third week or so of April, I would guess.
Chris, please reach out to me or at whoever. Just let me know, and I guarantee I won't have a grant deadline that day. So I do apologize, but it is just the way the day is.
That's great. Which grant is due today?
It's under EDA. It's an EAA, Economic Adjustment Assistance Grant, and it's over $400,000. So it's a big one, and it could be a good one that we could use in the region for many things. So
sounds
we really
great.
want to make sure we get it in. So
good. All right. Anybody
like I said, when I first talked to you, I thought I'd get it in yesterday, but
no, that's fine. I've been there too. So anybody have a quick question for Eric maybe before he goes? Just a first thought, or
I'm going to do a dangerous thing. I'm going to call out my email address to everybody in the room here, and you can email me if you want, because it's an easy one. It's Eweiss, EWEISS at pvpc.org, and I'm happy to respond.
Great. Easy enough. Wonderful. Great. Well, thanks, Eric. I mean, I appreciate you joining in and appreciate your time constraints. And so, like I say, we're trying to find some of the things that would be easy enough that we could handle for this budget season. And knowing things like shared services will take a whole lot more planning and discussion and, you know, collaboration on all kinds of fronts. That's not something that we thought would be immediate, but we didn't want to lose sight of that being a possible avenue to explore. Okay.
So, I appreciate it, everybody. I really do.
Good. Thanks for joining in. Yep. Stay as long as you can, or leave if you need to.
I just got a phone call on the grant. I just got to go.
All right.
It is what it is.
All right. Thank you.
Take care, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right. So, well, that gives us a bit of a information overview, I guess I would say. I'm not sure what we can do with some of that, but just to let us know that, you know, it is possible to think about some ideas for sharing services. So Janet.
Yeah, I'm just curious if maybe for those of us that weren't at your select board meeting last night, could you share a little bit for this group about shared health and how that impacts us either financially or cost savings, or is there any efficiencies we get out of that, or is that still kind of to be determined?
All I've got is actually the handout from that meeting that basically it's with a bunch of towns. I mean, it's like 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, it's like 14 or 15 towns that are involved in this. And I think Northampton is the lead community, and a lot of it is educational programming. Some of it's also supplies, some of it's data services. So there might be something like in future contact tracing kinds of things where, you know, we might be able to benefit from this and not have to, you know, have our own contact tracer on contract. COVID testing, you know, maybe purchasing, you know, COVID supplies through them if that comes back around at us. I wasn't at the actual meeting, so I don't know that I can share a whole lot more in terms of what I understand about that. It sounded though that, you know, it's just kind of getting going from what I understand. They do a fair amount, or they will do a fair amount of disease surveillance and tracking. And I think they'll be having a variety of things, you know, available, you know, to towns. You know, there may be some, again, I think a fair amount of it seems to be educational programming, but I could be totally wrong on that. But it would be things like, you know, blood pressure clinics or overdose prevention or things along those lines. I think Kate had mentioned even car seat safety, things like that. So I'm not totally sure how it's going to benefit us in terms of any cost savings, but it's more of an educational thing that we're part of. So that's at least a collaboration among other towns relative to public health. That's about what I know about it. I don't know if anybody else has any clue. I don't think anybody else was at the meeting either. So, but anyway, any first thoughts on any other thoughts in terms of shared services? That was on our list, and I thought Eric would be here a little bit longer so we could delve into that. So I apologize for not having the timing on that one as well as we thought it might be. He's mentioned a couple of things with, I heard fire and police, and I know that would be very, I'm not sure. Blandford and Chester, I think, are quite different in terms of their needs and their size, right, Ian? I mean, I don't know how that really would work in terms of
they're much different as far as staffing and so forth. And I did, if you want to discuss John's email that he sent out to the group relative to ambulance services, I did forward that to John Workman today to let him know that could be an upcoming discussion, and that it would be something that clearly is outside of my wheelhouse, so he should be discussing it. So when we do decide to address that, should that be addressed, we want to make sure that we just reach out to John and invite him to the meeting.
Absolutely. No, I think he definitely needs to be at the table if we bring that topic up, or anybody who, you know, we're thinking about has the possibility to have a shared service. And John, do you want to say any more about that since you passed that around?
Yeah, only that, you know, like with everything, I think everything should be on the table. There's that, you know, listening to Eric, you know, shared fire service, you know, I don't know enough about what the other towns are doing abutting us, Westhampton, Montgomery. I think Montgomery is covered by Westfield, but it's more about the fact finding. Because I mean, the one thing that just everybody has pet peeves, right? So my pet peeve is when I ask a question, it's like, well, no, we can't do that. Well, why? Just because, you know, let's just document it. Let's go through the exercise and determine whether it's the right course or not. And reality, where we settle, may be somewhere in the middle on what we're doing now and what we think. But I just think it was timely that Hoyle sent out their RFP. So I'm a big fan of plagiarism now that I have my degree. You know, it doesn't matter anymore. So change a few words, put it out there, and but we also need to do our fact finding internally. And I agree, and I hope I stressed it on the email that, you know, John does need to be a part of this. I understand he's not at the table to vote, but you know, he's going to be a big voice in this. And I think timing also works too, right? Because unless something changes, John's here until his retirement, you know, so there's a potential transition at that point in time down the road. So there's no rush. I don't think this is something to be dealt with before this budget.
No,
I think it's a June or July, activity, a nice summer project.
Yeah. Well, it may be good too to have a kind of a list of questions that we could, you know, give to John or to anybody and have them, be able to come prepared to the meeting of, what do things cost, or how often is this, or how frequent is that? I mean, looking at the RFP, it was kind of interesting in terms of what Holyoke was trying to do in terms of, a certain minimum number was it a minimum number of runs, I think, that had to be done? I forget how it was laid out, but it was, I found it very interesting. And then they had also a more of a cost sharing type thing too, right? A profit sharing. Was it really a profit sharing?
Holyoke doesn't utilize that because in lieu of doing that, all calls are routed through Holyoke Hospital. So that's creates a revenue source for the community hospital.
Right. Okay.
But
Yeah.
Hamden,
That was
Hadley, East Long Meadow.
Okay. That was it.
Worked in the profit sharing.
Yeah, there
agreement.
was a profit sharing one, and that was the newspaper article that you attached.
Yep.
That was it. Okay, I knew I read it somewhere. Sorry. Anyway, so
And I think in both those, love them, hate them, or be neutral. In both those cases, Bob Markle was the town administrator who rolled those in.
Yeah.
So he has some experience with Southampton from a couple decades ago.
Exactly.
Not quite that long ago, but
Had been here before too. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good. Well, let's assume that we probably won't delve too much more into cost sharing. Certainly at this meeting, I want to just pull up the last screen that we had. Other things, if I can think which one it was here. I think it was the service delivery one. And this was the idea of some expanded online permitting and what was the second? I think there was one more on this idea too. So just to bring these, and then the improved financial software for the town hall finance team. So these are the kind of improved service delivery ones that we were talking about. And Janet, maybe just fill us in a little bit about what you learned from Ron. I know I shared the email that you had sent around, but
yeah, that was from Art, actually.
oh, okay, right. Sorry.
Yeah.
Art working with Ron though, but yeah.
Yeah. It is the volunteer in the building commission office. But he was dealing with, they use point software. And I know this is also kind of overlaps with Bradley's group. It was looking to see how they could get the permits to the assessor's office electronically versus hard copy wise. And the same thing is they thought that could also somehow plug into Vision. That they have a data naming template for building permit files. So that would really reduce, wait times and potential mistakes from handling paper more than one time. And they also talked about the treasurer collector's office being able to use point software for taxes. So, it was kind of a high level area, but a lot of it had to do with not building so much as connecting the building software, that point software, to the other departments.
Okay. And you said possibly the treasurer's office too?
Yeah, what they say is, yeah, because you can use the software they have with the treasurer's department for taxes.
And that's if we didn't change the financial software, which is another topic, but okay, I guess, yeah.
Yeah, I haven't talked to anybody in treasurer or assessors, because I know that's Bradley's group, so.
So do we understand then that the building commissioner has this point software and it has a way to tie into the Vision software that the assessors use? Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, yep.
Okay. So that could connect.
And he also said that the gentleman that that outreach, Jim Regan, would be happy to come and talk to us at some future meeting about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
He also said they have modules for fire department inspections, board of health, and complaint tracking, select board licensing, and forms that the clerk's office use. So, I think it was a very broad response without a lot of detail that somebody that has the expertise would need to educate us about that.
Okay, all right. Any thoughts on that? Ed, are you familiar with this software a bit?
I am familiar with other software products which work similarly.
Okay. And I think are we right in that the point software is something that the building commissioners have just started to use? Is that fairly new for them, or?
No, they were using it when I got here four
Yeah, it's been a
years
few
ago.
years, yeah.
Oh, has it? Okay, all right,
Yeah.
okay. All right, so the main thing is it wouldn't change their software or the assessor's software. What this would do, this is just simply linking the two to reduce a lot of the hands-on work. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes, if it sounds like, the permit list, which others have used to update vision databases, so with the right connection. So, I mean, it's a CSV file that's generated, includes vision PID value as one of the column values, so it would add to the a spreadsheet, basically.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I think if we want to dig in deeper, certainly Jim Regan would be more than happy to
Mm-hmm.
provide the value if you think it's worth the time on the call.
Okay. Would that be, what would people think? Would you rather hear that as part of this committee or have a subgroup hear that if we could have him come in? I mean, it seems like we'd need somebody from the assessors here too, or Bradley is a rep for the assessors, but I think it would be good to have, maybe Dave Arnold or somebody here too that knows vision really well.
Mhm.
My initial reaction would be is get the stakeholders that would have to use this
Right.
in a 30-minute session and get their feedback.
Okay.
Right.
Have a
It's-
meet with the stakeholders versus, yep.
Yeah, it's actually similar to changing financial systems. You want the stakeholders of the collector treasurer, the town accountant, the town administrator, and anybody else that is utilizing that base to be on the same page when you either upgrade or move to another platform.
Right. Yeah. Okay. So this would be, it's similar, but still different from the financial platform that you were talking about, right, Ed?
Yes.
Okay.
All the permitting software that I've dealt with in its different forms has always been, shall we say, a separate software company from the financial software.
Mm-hmm.
But you need to integrate to that financial software.
Yeah. Okay. So maybe having somebody from the assessor's office, yourself, whomever, I don't know, Ron, maybe?
I would put Board of Health in there as well, or somebody from the health department.
And depending on how far you want to go with it, you might even think about including planning.
Mm-hmm.
Because one of the other pieces, and you could think about conservation too, because one of the other pieces, although each module costs separately, so you're adding to the total cost of the package, all these platforms have the ability, instead of passing that sheet of paper around to the building commissioner, the Concom, the planning board, the tax collector, or whatever for sign-offs, that anyone that has a module can see all that information electronically, and they sign off electronically.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you would need, we have Vision. We're not going to move away from Vision anytime soon. They have their permitting software that they invested in. If they have connectors to these various departments, it seems like there'd be a lot of, I'm one of the people that believes that a piece of paper should only be touched once. And if we can send it for sign-offs electronically, it makes a lot of sense to me.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to add that up here where that was. Okay. I'll tidy this up later. I'm just trying to jot down a few notes where I can think about this now. Okay. All right. So is this something maybe Ed, you and I can work together and figure out if we could connect with Jim and find a time for him to meet with 3 or 4 of these folks that would be the stakeholders, if we could find a good time for that?
Sure.
All right. We'll work on seeing what would make sense. And then just jumping down, a similar then situation was the improved financial software. I think this is where we were really talking to tie in treasurer's office and accounting, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And again, the Board of Health, because that's, right, is that?
Not with financial software.
No, this is
oh, it's not-
financial
oh, this
software.
is financial. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
bad.
so Ed's office in general, so TA. And I think there were a couple of companies that you had in mind, right? And they would
Yes.
they would need to come in. One was Vadar or something, is that right?
Yeah, one would be upgrading to the cloud platform from SoftWrite, which is Springbrook, and then the other one that would fit our size community would be Vadar.
Okay, so upgrade to Springbrook, is that what I heard?
That's one of the possibilities, yeah.
Okay. And or
Ed, out of curiosity, do you know what version we're on right now?
Of the SoftWrite,
Yeah.
it's old because I've been on versions of it in other places that offer a lot more flexibility or less manual workings than the one we're using here.
Yeah.
And you know, whether that was different versions or the town just didn't invest in some modules, I can't say, but I know this is an older version.
okay. So this would be something that they've got representatives locally, I assume, that we could find and sort of schedule something?
Well, it might not be what you might call local, but people we can get in, yes.
Yeah, or by Zoom or something, if nothing else, then maybe.
Yeah.
So, and what we would need to know probably, or they would know if they are already our vendor, like SoftWrite, they would know what we currently have, but somebody like Vadar, we'd have to give them some specs in terms of what we have and would want them to present, you know, what their product could do for us, right?
Correct.
Okay. So again, I think a lot of this would probably fall to both you and Bradley on this one and bringing in Jen probably.
Yep.
The three of you,
Absolutely.
and see if you can figure out a good time to have a 45-minute meeting maybe with each of these guys somehow and understand what the product is.
Each one would probably be at least an hour.
Yeah, okay. But to get an idea of costing, because I think that's something that, you know, we're hoping would be, you know, if we had some costs, we could actually maybe try to get that somehow figured into this year's budget. Is that a realistic goal?
We'll be using ARPA funds.
Okay.
Have you submitted an application?
Yes,
He's got a lot of them to submit, I think.
I do.
I gotta sit down and make a list to make sure we don't miss any.
Deadline's coming up.
Yeah, right. But anyway, I think the goal is, and I don't want to, you know, jump over my skis here, but I'm thinking that we've been talking about the financial software improvement in particular for quite a while. So that that is a big goal.
The two that are coming up we need to do is the financial software update and the website update.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Janet, you got your hand raised.
Yeah, I'm just wondering if you're talking about the finance team, where does the assessors play in that financial package?
Currently, they don't use SoftWrite, so they don't fit in at all.
Okay,
But I mean, that's one of the things we have to pull out of the two vendors is there opportunity for the assessors to be using some of that, and is it worth our while to expand? So yeah, there's the possibility for that to fit in.
yeah, I mean, 'cause I don't want them left off of the list of could be affected type of
Right.
discussion on your
Sure.
form, Chris. That, I mean,
Yep.
part of the finance team and,
Right. I can go back and find that again and add that in there somewhere where I had it. Where was it? There was right here. I think I had that one. And is there anything, if I got the right one, hang on. Is there anything related to software that would be useful for the town clerk's office while we're talking software? Is there, I don't know what she uses often.
I mean, the permitting software might be a help
Mm-hmm.
for, you know, dog licenses, you know, marriage certificates, what have you.
Okay, so maybe we'll throw her in on the other one here in terms of this too. Well, we said they had modules anyway for town clerk. That was what Janet mentioned. So I can go in and take a look at that and fill that blank in a little bit more clear so we understand what we're doing here. But it seems to me like our next steps on these two would be to have these subgroups of stakeholders and try to schedule some meetings with this Jim Reagan guy and then the two vendors, SoftWrite and Vadar, and see if we can nail some information down in a reasonable amount of time and be able to use it for this budget season if possible. Okay, or decide to use it or not to use it, whatever it may be, but yeah. Okay, anything else? Is there anything else that crosses our mind? I don't know that I have any other information here. I just want us to kind of keep plugging on this. Is anybody, not liking the idea of documenting what we're trying to do here? Or is this a workable form? Is it too much? I'm just throwing it out there to work with, but I'm willing to take any kind of feedback on it.
I think the detail is good and it's captured and it's better than storing it in my memory.
Yeah, well, I just feel like, if we're going to make some changes, it's helpful to have some reasons why, not only for ourselves in the present time, but 2 years from now, and somebody says, well, why did you do that? I mean, you can go back and look at, the kinds of things we looked at. And, this is not a committee that's maybe going to be around forever and ever. So I would like us to at least have something that shows that we've taken a hard look at how we can do things better at town hall, not only for better efficiency at working and productivity of people working at town hall, but also those that are directly service related to the general population. So our residents recognize that, hey, something is happening here and I got an answer a heck of a lot quicker, or I got my permit through, a week quicker than I thought I would, or whatever it might be. Just to have that level of efficiency, I think will be an interesting exercise. But any thoughts or comments? And if not, I'd like
to add one thing, Chris. I'm sorry.
Yes, please. Yep.
But we talked about the aerial software for the assessors,
yeah.
and I don't know if that kind of fell off, but water does have a GIS system.
Okay.
So, and I know that was sort of, this is, technology that's beyond my knowledge base, but so it's something called ArcGIS Pro. And apparently there are some abilities to have view privileges versus edit privileges if they could share it. So I mean, I may recommend that maybe, somebody from the assessor's office try to touch base with the water superintendent to get a better understanding if that's a service that they can share between those departments if they're looking for a viewing capability.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That would meet their needs. I don't know.
Yeah.
Actually, that's one thing PVPC can help us out with.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, they do have a GIS department. Because actually, when Art and I had gone over a couple of years ago to listen to the IT presentation, I was talking to him about that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But I mean, would they be answer the question about the software that the water department uses versus the needs of the assessor's office?
Yeah, they would be able to.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, and it's the same software. It's just, shall we say, different layers that are added to it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Good.
I mean, yeah. I mean, it took David over an hour to come up with that list of properties for me about a week ago, and the only way he got there was I finally said, rather than saying, and I was asking for 3/4 of a mile, I said, basically, give me this tile, this tile, this tile, and this tile, which is the 4 in the middle. And then he was able to actually pull them out from those tile numbers. With GIS software, you can actually draw a circumference and that information would come out that way.
Mm-hmm. But would this still be something that would accomplish the same thing like the aerial flyover though? I mean, how would you?
The aerial flyover is part of the ArcGIS.
It would be, okay.
Yeah, it's superimposed over
Another layer, right? It's
another layer.
There's another layer. So I'll give you a quick example. Is I will use like Google Earth or whatever, or I will use Mass GIS and use their photography.
Mhm.
But you can't put that photography over our layer and see the property lines and see how they line up. With ArcGIS, you actually can.
Okay, all right. Well,
Jim was sitting outside of a select board meeting and I happened to leave the meeting and he said, we have a GIS system. So
oh, that's where we go. We got people in town within our departments that have things that we don't know that we need to be able
Yep.
to share. That's
that
good to
was
know.
great.
Yeah, okay. And I don't know, Bradley, just to wrap up, because we had talked about this too, just in terms of further information about the assessors and the personal property tax. Do we have any information about how that's been going? Are they getting responses or anything that you're aware of on that yet?
Last I heard was that they did more research and found the bigger businesses that they could tax a lot more money. So that was the last I've heard, that they expect to earn more money.
For
Okay.
next January,
Mhm.
starting next January, wouldn't go into effect.
Okay, all right. And so it's the assessors that would be sending out the letters on that, right? Is that what we understood? I think.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. Well, that's at least something that may come along, and it would be good, I think, as we go along, if they, we'll know what they've been able to collect, and like if they had, whatever, 100 businesses on their list, and all of a sudden they've been able to expand to 120 businesses. I mean, that too will, show us what's been able to happen, just because we're having another set of eyes on things and trying to, be sure that we are capturing everything that we should be. So good to know. All right. I don't think I have any other thoughts for tonight. Could we schedule a next meeting? About 3 weeks from now would be Wednesday, would be the 20th, or the 21st would be a Thursday. That seems to be, either one of those days seems to be our days. And I know we often clash with school committee on Wednesdays, so I don't know how flexible. I know, Bob, you had some issues about trying to meet on a Wednesday. I don't know, could you possibly do a Thursday, the 21st?
I'll try.
Okay. We just have so many other meetings on Wednesday nights that some of us are involved in other ones starting at 6 o'clock already. So it just gets a little tight. Anybody have a preference? Wednesday or Thursday, 20th, 21 April? That would give us, I think, enough time to hopefully get some of these little sub meetings scheduled. I'm hoping. And I can work with Ed and help schedule some of that and whatever we need to do to make it happen. But I think it would be good to do that. And then maybe too, Bradley, that will give you some time to take a closer look at some of those supplies and see what we can come up with for some recommendations in terms of what should be on the preferred vendors list, what supplies and what vendors maybe. So we can do a little bit more in filling out these forms, if that's okay. So shall we say Thursday, the 21st? Is that okay? Or do we prefer Wednesday, the 20th? Do you have school board on the 20th?
No,
You don't? All
it's
right.
school vacation week, but I'm available.
Okay. Well, let's go for the 20th and on a Wednesday. That way, Bob, we're pretty sure you can attend to Wednesdays, right?
Be sure, yeah.
Okay.
I
right,
can't make Thursday. If you did it Thursday, I can't make Thursday.
Okay. Well, let's do Wednesday, the 20th. 3 o'clock-ish, okay?
I have a dentist appointment at 4. I
Well,
made it during vacation. So,
right.
I mean, I can join you for a little bit and then leave if you started at 3. That would be all right. I could
Okay.
be there for 45 minutes.
Okay. If you didn't have to travel too far. Okay.
Oh.
All right. So let's go for 3 o'clock on the 20th. How's that? All right. Good. And if there's other things to pass around, just, feel free to share them with the group, and I will, follow up with some of you individually, perhaps, to get some assignments. If anybody, even though you've been sort of allocated a certain thing, if you want to help out and do some other work on things with people, feel free to join in, because I don't want to overload any one person compared to what they're already doing too. So, I want to have a bit of sharing. It just seems to all be kind of funneling into one or two directions here, unfortunately.
Yeah, I'm happy to help if somebody reaches out and says I need some help with this, and I'm happy if anybody
Okay,
make that decision.
great. Okay, good. All right. Well, if we have nothing else, could I have a motion to adjourn?
Moved.
Second,
All right. All those in favor?
Kane,
Say
aye.
aye.
Keep an eye.
Aye. Okay.
Good night.
All right.
Bye.
Fowles eye. Let's call it adjourned at 4:20. And thank you all for joining in today. And I hope you feel like we're making a little bit of progress. It's a tough slog here, I must say. But I
Getting
think we
Eric back would be great, I think, with
Say-
exploring some of these. Getting
have-
Eric back when he's available would be helpful.
Yeah.
to me.
Okay. Yeah, I'll let him know in general when the meeting is. And he did mention that meeting on the 9th, and I think I'm scheduled to go to that. So I'll try and see what happens there, because that could be some good things happening too. So, all right, everybody. Thank you much.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Bye
Take
now.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.